Anthony Quinn finally broke his long silence on Charles Bronson, and it wasn't casual, soft, or forgettable. This wasn't a throwaway comment or some recycled Hollywood anecdote. It came from lived experience, from a man who survived poverty, rejection, and power games in an industry that never handed him anything easily. When Quinn spoke, it carried weight because he had earned every word. Long before fame, Anthony Quinn entered the world as Manuel Antonio Rodolfo Quinn Oaxaca on April 21, 1915 in Chihuahua, Mexico. His story didn't begin with comfort. It began with motion, instability, and survival instincts that stayed sharp his entire life. Nothing about his rise was accidental. Born to a Mexican father of Irish descent and a Mexican mother, hardship hit fast and didn't let up. When his family relocated to Los Angeles, they weren't welcomed by opportunity. They collided with poverty. Those early years were unfiltered and unforgiving. Quinn worked construction, boxed for money, and took any job that helped keep the lights on, not to chase dreams, but to stay afloat. That grind carved grit into his bones, and audiences later felt it in every look, every pause, every explosion of emotion. A turning point arrived when Quinn found an unexpected refuge in art and architecture. What started as curiosity became transformation. Studying under Frank Lloyd Wright, Quinn heard words that changed his trajectory forever. His presence mattered. Wright didn't see limits. He saw force. He recognized Quinn's raw expressiveness and urged him toward acting, believing that kind of energy couldn't be taught or contained. When Quinn entered Hollywood in the 1930s, the system wasn't designed for him. Roles were narrow, repetitive, and boxed into stereotypes that offered no growth. But Quinn didn't back down. He studied people, sharpened instincts, and turned every small role into practice. Rejection didn't break him. It trained him. He wasn't chasing quick applause. He was laying bricks for longevity. By the early 1950s, ignoring him became impossible. His breakthrough detonated with Viva Zapata, 1952, where he played the unpredictable brother of revolutionary Emiliano Zapata. The performance hit hard, volatile, emotional, and fearless. That role earned Quinn his first Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, making him the first Mexican-born actor to win an Oscar. That wasn't just history. It was a challenge to Hollywood's gatekeeping, and he wasn't done. In 1956, Quinn stunned audiences again in Lust for Life, portraying painter Paul Gauguin with inner fire and emotional tension that lingered long after the credits rolled. The second Oscar wasn't repetition, it was confirmation. Quinn was no longer fighting for respect, he commanded it. Then came the role that sealed immortality. In Zorba, the Greek, 1964, Quinn became Alexis Zorba, loud, philosophical, joyful, reckless, and deeply human. The performance didn't feel staged. It felt lived. Audiences across cultures connected instantly. The role earned him another Academy Award nomination and locked his image into global pop culture. Zorba wasn't just a character, it was a philosophy. Freedom, resilience, and emotional honesty poured out of every scene. That spirit mirrored Quinn himself, shaped by hardship, reinvention, and refusal to be boxed in. Across more than 150 films, Quinn crossed genres, borders, and languages without losing authenticity. He portrayed historical and spiritual figures in films like Barabbas, 1961, and Lawrence of Arabia, 1962, always adding complexity where others might have stayed flat. Strength and vulnerability existed side by side in his performances, and audiences felt the truth behind them. That life experience is why Quinn's words about Charles Bronson mattered so much later. He wasn't speaking as a critic or competitor, but as someone who understood struggle, silence, and survival. When Quinn finally spoke, it wasn't to hype or tear down, It was to recognize authenticity. If this deep dive changed how you see Anthony Quinn and his world, hit like, share this story, and subscribe for more untold Hollywood truths. Drop a comment below, and I'll see you in the next video. Off-screen, Anthony Quinn was just as restless, driven, and creatively charged as he was in front of the camera. Acting alone was never enough for him. He painted with bold strokes, sculpted with raw physicality, and wrote with the same emotional force he poured into his performances. His artwork wasn't a side hobby. It was serious, disciplined, and widely respected. Galleries around the world displayed his work, reinforcing his belief that creativity had no borders and no single outlet. Quinn's memoirs pulled back the curtain even further. They revealed a man constantly questioning who he was, what success really meant, and how legacy should be measured. Fame didn't quiet his doubts, it amplified them. He wrestled with identity, purpose, and the cost of ambition, and he never pretended to have clean answers. That honesty made his reflections feel raw and human, not polished or defensive. His personal life carried the same scale and intensity as his career, passionate, complicated, and at times deeply turbulent. In 1937, Quinn married actress Catherine DeMille, linking himself directly to Hollywood royalty. Catherine was the adopted daughter of legendary filmmaker Cecil B. DeMille, and for a man who grew up with nothing, this connection instantly shifted his access and visibility within the industry. Still, Quinn pushed hard to prove he belonged on talent alone. He refused to be seen as someone riding family influence. Over the course of their long marriage, Anthony and Catherine raised 5 children and maintained the outward image of a solid Hollywood household. But behind that polished surface lived ambition, restlessness, and emotional fire that never truly cooled. That inner tension mattered later when Quinn spoke about Charles Bronson. This wasn't rivalry or image building. It was insight from someone who understood masculinity, power, and survival in an industry that rewarded toughness but punished vulnerability. When Quinn spoke about Bronson, it came from lived experience, not rumor, and that's why it carried weight. At home, Catherine worked tirelessly to create stability, while Quinn climbed from supporting roles into heavyweight dramatic performances. She believed in structure, routine, and emotional grounding. For years, she gave him the foundation he never had growing up: quiet support, consistency, and order. But as Quinn's fame expanded, so did the pressure, and so did his restlessness. Anthony Quinn later admitted that success didn't quiet the storms inside him, it made them louder. Fame didn't bring peace, it brought temptation, access, and constant motion. His temperament stayed fiery and impulsive, always chasing the next emotional surge, the next feeling that made him feel alive. As his profile rose, whispers about infidelity followed close behind, and this time, Quinn didn't dodge them. In later years, he spoke openly about it. He didn't dress it up or excuse it. He said he was driven by impulse, ego, and an endless hunger for stimulation, both emotional and physical. That honesty didn't erase the damage, though. Those choices left real wounds. Trust didn't vanish overnight. It eroded slowly, piece by piece, despite the stability Catherine DeMille fought to preserve. Years passed with milestones shared publicly and resentments building quietly in private. From the outside, the marriage still looked solid: successful actor, respected wife, growing family. But underneath, cracks widened. The weight of disappointment, sacrifice, and unmet expectations became impossible to ignore. After nearly 3 decades together, the strain finally broke the foundation. In 1965, their marriage ended in divorce. It closed a long, complicated chapter filled with ambition, loyalty, frustration, and unresolved pain. It wasn't a sudden collapse. It was the result of years of emotional wear and tear that never fully healed. Just 1 year later, Quinn surged forward again. In 1966, he married Yolanda Adalori, an Italian costume designer significantly younger than him. Yolanda brought European elegance, artistic sensitivity, and a new emotional rhythm into his life. To Quinn, it felt like rebirth. He spoke openly about renewal, passion, and creative reinvention, as if a second beginning had finally arrived. Together, they had 3 children, and for a time, Quinn appeared genuinely committed to building another version of family life. He split his time between Hollywood and Europe, balancing demanding film projects with painting, writing, and constant travel. Yolanda became deeply involved in managing daily life, anchoring the household while Quinn chased creative momentum across continents. But history has a way of repeating itself. Patterns don't disappear just because the scenery changes. This marriage, too, was shaken by Quinn's inability to remain faithful. During his marriage to Yolanda, he maintained a long-term relationship with Friedel Dunbar, with whom he fathered 2 children. That relationship ran parallel to his marriage and eventually became public, triggering emotional fallout and legal strain. Once again, Quinn's personal life mirrored the same contradiction that fueled his artistry, boundless passion paired with restless impulse. He understood the cycle, acknowledged it, and yet continued to live inside it. The cost was never abstract. It landed on the people closest to him. Beyond that sustained relationship, Quinn was widely linked, sometimes openly, sometimes through rumor, to some of Hollywood's most iconic actresses, including Rita Hayworth, Ingrid Bergman, and Carole Lombard. These stories shaped his public image as magnetic and passionate, but also deeply flawed, admired for his fire, criticized for the emotional wreckage left behind. By the 1990s, decades of unresolved tension had hollowed out his marriage to Yolanda. The final rupture came with Quinn's relationship with his secretary, Catherine Benvin, which again resulted in the birth of 2 children. The emotional strain, public exposure, and accumulated hurt made reconciliation impossible. Their divorce in 1997 was bitter and highly publicized. It reflected years of damage that had never fully healed. Not long after, Quinn married Catherine Benvin, formalizing a relationship that had already reshaped his personal life, even as he entered advanced age. Despite everything, Quinn remained deeply involved with his children. He spoke openly about pride, responsibility, and the grounding force of fatherhood. This final marriage captured the contradiction that defined him to the end, an unrelenting need for connection, even as familiar patterns repeated themselves. For decades, Quinn was asked about nearly every major figure from Hollywood's golden era, yet one name consistently brought hesitation: Charles Bronson. The 2 men were often grouped together, rugged physical actors projecting raw masculinity and danger on screen. Only later in life did Quinn finally speak openly, and when he did, his words were measured, respectful, and revealing. People saw Charles as an unbreakable wall of stone, Quinn said, but that was only the armor he wore for the world beneath. Those words didn't come from rivalry or nostalgia. They came from recognition. One survivor acknowledging another. Quinn recognized something familiar. Both men came from poverty. Both understood hunger, pressure, and survival. That shared background shaped Bronson's intensity and silence. Quinn rejected claims that Bronson was limited or one-dimensional. Charles didn't waste words, he explained. Every movement, every pause meant something. That takes discipline, that takes intelligence. He also addressed Bronson's reputation as guarded and unapproachable. He was cautious, Quinn said, and for good reason. According to Quinn, that toughness wasn't ego, it was self-protection. When you grow up fighting for everything, trust doesn't come easy. These reflections weren't hype or nostalgia. They were recognition from one survivor to another. Two men shaped by hardship, carrying their pasts into every frame they ever stepped into. He learned early that showing vulnerability could be dangerous, and that lesson followed him everywhere, on sets, in meetings, and in life itself. According to Anthony Quinn, once trust is broken, you don't forget it, you adapt. That mindset shaped how he moved through Hollywood, always alert, always reading the room, never fully letting his guard down. Despite their shared roots, Quinn pointed out key differences between himself and Charles Bronson. "Charles was more solitary than I was," Quinn said. "I thrived on chaos, on people, noise, energy. Charles preferred distance." That contrast wasn't criticism, it was observation. Quinn needed motion and conversation to feel alive, while Bronson needed silence to stay balanced. Bronson's need for space wasn't arrogance in Quinn's eyes, it was strategy. Quinn understood that Hollywood had a habit of sanding actors down, reshaping them into something safer and easier to sell. For Bronson, distance was protection. Silence gave him control in an industry that often demanded too much access. What hit Quinn hardest was Bronson's cultural impact. "Charles became a symbol," Quinn explained, "not just of action or toughness, but of the working man who refuses to break." That image resonated worldwide because it felt earned. Audiences didn't see a fantasy. They saw someone who looked like he had lived the struggle his characters carried. Quinn made it clear he wasn't trying to turn Bronson into a legend carved from stone. "He wasn't perfect," Quinn said. "None of us were. What mattered was honesty. Bronson didn't pretend to be something else. His strength wasn't flashy. It was grounded, quiet, and real. And that kind of authenticity is rare. Those words weren't hype or rivalry. They were recognition. One survivor acknowledging another. A final tribute built on shared experience, not headlines or competition." As his own life slowed, Quinn stepped away from Hollywood's glare. He found peace in Bristol, a coastal town that offered calm after decades of intensity. There, away from sound stages and spotlights, Quinn embraced privacy, reflection, and the sweeping views of Narragansett Bay that stretched endlessly toward the horizon. In his final year, Quinn focused on simple pleasures, quiet mornings, familiar faces, and stillness he rarely allowed himself before. On June 3, 2001, he passed away in Boston at the age of 86 due to respiratory failure linked to complications from lung cancer treatment. His death closed the chapter on a life that crossed continents, cultures, and generations of cinema. The news hit hard around the world. Fans remembered him as fierce, passionate, and unmistakably human, on screen and off. His funeral was held at the First Baptist Church in America on College Hill in Providence, Rhode Island. The setting carried history, restraint, and dignity, fitting for a man whose life felt almost mythic. Friends, family, and admirers gathered to reflect on a career that redefined what a leading man could be. Quinn didn't fit molds, he broke them. His characters carried depth, contradiction, and raw truth that challenged expectations. In a final, deeply personal gesture, Quinn's wife requested permission to bury him not in a traditional cemetery, but in the place he loved most, his own backyard in Bristol. The couple had purchased the property in 1995, drawn to its serenity and breathtaking view of the bay. Near an old maple tree, Quinn had found belonging and peace. Authorities approved the request, honoring both the family's wishes and Quinn's bond with the land. There, away from noise and expectation, he was laid to rest, exactly where he felt at home. If this story gave you insight you didn't expect, hit like, share it with someone who loves classic cinema, and subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories. Drop a comment with your thoughts. and I'll see you in the next video.